Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron. Today we're gonna get back on the rear end of Shorty here, see how far we can make it. So before we get into that, I want to let you guys know that we are doing another t-shirt giveaway in this video. And at the end of this video, I will announce the t-shirt giveaway winner from the last video. And if you're new to the channel and don't know what I'm talking about, if you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button and leave me a comment, you're entered to win a t-shirt. That's all you gotta do, leave a comment, be subscribed. I go through, use the random comment generator, pick a comment, whoever gets picked wins a shirt. If you've already won a shirt and you win again, you get a sticker pack. So leave a comment, hit the like button, all that stuff, and let's get to it. So, all right. Today we're going to work on mounting the rear fuel cell in between the frame here. I'm going to pull all the rear suspension off, leaf springs, rear end, everything. We're getting this ready to paint. I can't clean it up and paint it until I'm done doing all the cutting and fabrication, or I shouldn't say I can't, I don't want to, because I don't want to redo stuff twice. So I got to get the rear end off. I got to get the fabrication done to mount the tank back here, and then I can go ahead and paint it and it'll be done. I can clean and paint everything else and we can start putting it back together. So my burnout truck, buried away in the corner over there, is a factory short bed. So me and my dad just went over and took about 6 different measurements off of that to see where I needed to cut the back of the frame to make the frame length right for it to be a short bed. And it's right here. This comes out, this gets cut off, this gets moved up to these holes that are already here. And then that's where everything needs to be. But I have to check because I got to make sure I have enough room to mount the tank in there. So we'll see what it's going to take. We'll get it figured out. But first things first, I need to get this cross member pulled out. And I'm going to have to take this tire carrier out, but I'm going to leave the tire carrier in until I get this moved because it'll kind of help hold the frame together. So that's it. Cut some rivets, pop them off, pop that out, cut the frame off, move that up, bolt it back in, yada yada, bada bang, bada boom. Done. So let's get to it. All right, well, I got a new memory card for my camera. I put it in. I've been doing work on this thing and thinking I was filming all of it, and I just went to go back to watch a clip to see something and realized that nope, I haven't been filming jack because the new memory card wasn't saving it for some reason. I don't know what the deal is, I don't know what's wrong. Not that much of the tech savvy person, but went back to my old memory card, checked it. Now I know I'm recording, so I'm going to catch you guys up where we're at now, and then we'll move on from here. So I lopped the back of the frame off. I took measurements from the burnout truck, which is a standard short bed, took measurements off of it, measured this and made sure I cut it in the exact same spot. I took my spare tire carrier out. I took this back cross member out. We need to move it. So now that the frame is the length that it needs to be, since we're going with the 25-gallon Blazer tank, we need to put this cross member as far back as possible, all the way at the back of the frame here, and then re-drill holes and bolt it in, or you can weld it in if you want to. I'm going to bolt it so it's removable if need be. So what we're going to do is, because I took all the cross members out back here, the frame has spread about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap a ratchet strap around it, and I'll tighten it down and pull it in to get that 1/8 of an inch back. And then I'm going to put this back in here and get it where we want it. And then we'll drill it and move on. So I'm gonna get a strap and we'll strap this in and then we'll start drilling. No.
Not tight enough.
Yeah. Alright, so I know I didn't say much or explain it a whole lot, but we got this. I measured off the back of the next cross member forward to the back of this to make sure I had everything straight, because I know the frame is straight because I measured it 2 or 3 times already. Now I've got a long drill bit. I know not everybody's going to have one of these, but you can always mark this drill from the bottom. I just don't feel like laying on the ground having shavings coming up all over me today, so I can just come down from the top and drill like this. Okay. Got my holes all drilled. I already got bolts in the bottom and tight. I just need to put my bolts in the top. Get rid of these. Okay, got that relocated. It's in its permanent spot for good now. Go ahead and take our strap back off. That's all done. I don't know if I mentioned it since I figured out my memory card wasn't working or before, but I have this brake hose bracket here. I have to take that and cut it off to move it out of the way. So I'll go ahead and get that cut off, and then once I get it cut off, then we can bring our tank over here and get it set up in place and see what we're going to need to do to mount it. Alright, well, there's a storm brewing again. Seems to be the new usual. But the next thing I'm going to do is this is our cross member for our spare tire hanger that we took off. And we're going to take this and we're going to mount it on the bottom of the top rail in here, and that's going to be our stop for the gas tank when you bring it up into it. But in order for that to work, I have to take this here and notch that so it's flat. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and bring it straight across, because we want it to be even with the top of the frame rail, because we don't want it to hit the bed anywhere. So we'll do that. Same thing over on this side. I'll just draw a line down here, roughly like so. I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'll get those cut. I got to straighten these out a little bit. They got bent up from popping the rivets out and stuff. So I'll get this trimmed, both sides, to where it's straight like I want it, and then I'll bring you back and show you what I'm doing. Okay, I got that old spare tire carrier mount cut down the way I wanted it to. Once again, I'm not cleaning anything up. I'm just because I'm gonna sand down and grind and whatever to make the frame real nice and clean before I paint it. So I'm gonna do all that at one time. Just getting all the fabrication work done and getting everything mounted right now. So I got this trimmed down. As you can see, it had big, like 1/2 to 3/4 inch ears that hung up on it. But we don't want that, because we want it to be as level as possible with the frame, because we don't know where the bed braces are gonna be. And if there's a bed brace that sits right there and it's hitting on this, then it's gonna try to hold the bed up. So I'm not mounting this on top of the bed like this, or on top of the frame like this. It's gonna go underneath the rail. But I set it on top because I can measure it, get it straight where I want it, mark my holes, and then I can drill my holes through the top, put the brace underneath where I want it, and then bolt it on. And then I'll put some rubber. Once it's all done and said and everything's painted and all that, I'll put some rubber along the bottom of this, so when there's vibration and stuff in the tank, it doesn't wear metal on metal and start wearing into the gas tank. And then I've also got a piece of flat bar. I'm gonna come back here and I'll measure across here, and I'll use these existing holes, and I'm gonna cut a piece of flat bar to put in there, and it'll be the back. And if you wonder why this is flat and this is a big step, look at the frame rail. It comes out, curves up. So if you bolt this in here and check this, and then check this, it should be really dang close to level, and that's what we need. So the top of the tank will sit flat even though the frame is curved. So I'm gonna go ahead and do like I said. I'll turn the other camera on so you guys can watch me, but I'm gonna measure from the back of the frame, or pick a specific spot, measure forward, make sure that brace is the same on both sides. I'll mark it with a marker, drill holes, put bolts in it, and then I'm gonna cut a piece like I said to go back here, and I'll cut that, drill holes, bolt it up, and then we can bring the tank over, set it up, and then I'll show you what we got to do next to get it mounted in here. So hang tight, grab something to drink, here we go. Okay, I know that my bar right here has to be up here on the flat, but I know it also has to be back as close to, I'm going to put it as close as I can to the edge of that bend, which is going to put me like right here. So the back side of my bar is centered on the hole for my shock mount, because I want it back as far as I can, so I've got plenty of meat on top of the tank, but I want it forward far enough that it's doing what it's doing. So I'm going to measure off of these existing holes where this brace was mounted back here, because they should be the same on both sides. And then I'm going to measure up, and we're just a hair off of 2 foot centered. So that sounds like an easy number to remember, so we're just going to come forward 2 feet, and that's where we're gonna make our mark. So I'm gonna draw a mark at the back of it here, just so when I go to that side and measure, if this side moves, I'll know where to line it back up. Come over here, do the same thing. We're gonna go center on that. Make the center of our hole 2 feet, and then I'll mark this also, and then I'm going to go across, and I've got 34 across, and my brace is 31 1/4. So I'm not very good at math, so I'm just going to measure from here to here, which is about 1 1/4, and this is about 1. So yeah, I need to come over this way about 1/8 of an inch, which I went too far. Okay, so that's about 1 1/8 inches. That's about 1 1/8 inches. Pretty good. So now we need to make sure that this is on our marks, like so. Then I'm going to go center of it, mark that, mark that. Now I can take my bar out, go get my drill and a drill bit, and I can drill those 2 holes. So we'll get those drilled and be ready to put our bar in. Alright, bring you guys in for a close-up. Got these holes drilled, got this mounted in. It's nice and stout. Here's our piece of flat bar I told you about that we were running across the back. The tank's gonna sit up against this. Now this is just something that I did because I like it this way. I've seen other people that kind of just weld an extension onto this brace to have it grab the lip of the tank, but I like this better. Once again, we're gonna have some thin rubber. It's gonna go along the bottom of this. We're gonna have some thin rubber that goes along the bottom of this so that it's not metal on metal wearing through the tank. But we got that all set up. That's gonna be our stops. When the tank comes up, it's gonna hit those. That's where it's gonna sit. And that gives us something for our straps to push against. So it actually clamps the tank in and tightens it down like we need it to. So I'm gonna get you guys teleported back over to the other recording device. I'm gonna try to find a piece of wood or something to put on top of this jack, put the tank on it, and we'll jack the tank up into place and see how things are looking. Okay, I got our reproduction 25-gallon K5 blazer tank, and come up from underneath. Yep, go ahead and jack it up. Just go ahead and bring the jack up too. Okay. Alright, so there that is. That's sitting all the way up in there. It's going to keep our fill neck should be low enough to clear the bed, but if we have to modify it just a little bit, that'll be okay. But it's where we want it to be. Now we got that in place. what we'll do is, I don't know how well you guys can see, but I can see it. I might need to bring you over to the other camera, but there's thin grooves, or they're thin. There's grooves here in the tank that go all the way around. Right here, and right here on the bottom, they're different than the top, but right here and right here, there's grooves. That's where our strap is going to sit. So down here on our bracelet, we moved where those grooves are. We're going to drill holes. Where's it at? Right here and right over here in the back. And that's where the back of our strap is going to mount. And then up here in the front, we're going to have this piece. I got this piece of angle iron here. We're going to cut it to width. And we're going to mount it in between the frame rails here, like so. And that'll be our front brace for the tank. And then our straps will come around and go into this. So we're going to have to take a measurement and cut this down. And I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and weld it right to the inside of my my support plates for when we notched there. I'll just weld it right to the inside of those, and then we'll be able to drill our holes in it, and we'll be good to go. Now, when you do this, when you put these blazer tanks in here on the short beds and put them back as far as you want, they do clear the rear end, but just barely. And when I say just barely, once we get it mounted in there in its set spot, I'll show you guys. But when I say just barely, like when that rear end comes up, you've got half an inch between the pumpkin and the front of the tank. So it is what it is. You do what you do to get what you want. So I'm going to take a measurement in between those plates there. We'll cut this down. I'll drop that tank back out of the way because I don't want to weld with the tank in there. So we'll get that cleaned up and welded in, and then we'll be able to drill our holes and hang our straps. And yeah, sounds good. So let me make a little progress on getting a piece of this angle iron in here and make sure the tank's right where we want it to be. And then we'll be close to finishing this thing up. Okay, got my brace welded in. Or not my brace, well, I guess it's technically a cross member. And it's also a strap mount and whatever else you want to call it, but it's in. I let it sit there for a little bit to cool off. It's not hot anymore. Got all our other braces in. We got our straps out. So now I need to go get the tank back from over there, put it back in the frame, and then we can mark on my new angle iron I just welded in, and back here on this, where I need to drill the holes for the straps. And then once we do that, we can go ahead and put the straps in, mount the tank. Not permanently mounted, this is just mock-up, getting everything ready, because once again, if I already said this or if I didn't, I'm gonna have to take the tank back out to paint everything and all that stuff, and then once everything is done, the tank goes back in, then it'll be in for good. So I'm gonna get the tank back up in there. We'll mark the holes and drill them for the straps, and then we'll go ahead and get that tank mounted. Okay, tank conversion is done. Or conversion, is that right? Adaptation. We put a blazer tank in the back of a shortbed C10, whatever you want to call it, that's what it is. So aside from putting some rubber in here, maybe a little back here, little up here, some in the straps because the straps didn't come with any, but the tank is mounted. That ain't going nowhere. Old truck moves when I move the tank. So, turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. A lot of people talked about how low the tank is when you do this, but in reality, it's not much, if any, lower than the spring hanger. And if you ever get this thing to where the spring hanger is rubbing on the ground, you got some serious issues. So, I think it turned out pretty good, and I'm happy with it. So I'm gonna cool off for a couple minutes, drink some water, maybe dry out a little bit, probably not. And then we'll start tearing this rear end back apart. We'll drop the tank back out, we'll take the diff off, we'll take the springs out, so on and so forth. Get this thing ready to where we can clean it all up and paint it, because as of right now, everything in the back is ready to clean up and paint. And then once it's all cleaned up and painted, it'll be done. Last time we got to mess with it. So I'm gonna cool off for a second. We'll come back and we'll get this all stripped apart. As you can see, we got it stripped down to a bare frame in the back, where all we got to do is clean it up and paint it. And I need to clean up and paint the rear end and clean up and paint the leaf springs. And then we got the axle flip kit and the drop shackles and all that to put it back together. But like I mentioned before in other videos, because this was a Big 10, it has 7 leafs plus the overload, where like my C10 RJ over here has 5 leafs and then the overload. So obviously with 2 extra leafs, it's stiffer and it's gonna sit up higher. So if we lower it without adjusting anything, it's gonna be sitting higher in the back, which we don't want. We want it to sit just like Cherry Pie did, just like Groundskeeper did. Other side did.
I know.
Okay. Well, anyways, sorry about that. So what we're gonna do is, I may be wrong, but in my mind, the way I think of this overload is thicker and probably has a heavier weight rating than 2 of these leaves. So instead of taking 2 leaves out and having 5 leaves and the overload, so it's like the other trucks we've done, I'm just gonna take the overloads off and have 7 leaves, which should set it about the same as where 5 leaves and the overload do in my mathematical equations that I came up with myself. So that's what we're gonna do. You take this bolt off right here, tap that pin through, take this overload off, tap the pin back in, and put the nut back on. Hopefully it's got enough threads in there. If not, we might have to go get new ones, which is no big deal. And then put the nut back on, springs are done, clean them up, paint them, clean up rear end, paint them, flip, shackle, bing, bang, boom, lowered rear end. So we're going to set the camera up. I'll show you how to take these leaf springs apart and we'll go from there. All right, who wants to play a game? This is either going to come off really easy or it's going to not come off easy, or it's going to break off and then we're screwed. Oh, it's started coming loose and now it's spinning the whole thing. That's a good sign. We're spinning the whole thing. I don't know if I can get these any tighter. Alright, never really had them come apart like that before, but I guess coming apart's coming apart, right? So, if we can get this out. Alright, there's our overload. Now, Dad, yeah. Can you go grab a C-clamp, please? Yeah. All right, so I had to cut that bolt down anyways. When you do the axle flip and put the axle on top, it can't be sticking up or it's gonna hit the rear end. So I had to cut it off anyway, so I cut the stripped out part off and ran over to my buddy's house, and he had some 3/8 by 24 nuts. So I went ahead and put a new nut on here, tighten this up. This spring's all done. This spring, on the other hand, the bolt was really eaten away by corrosion and whatnot. So the nut's on there, it's holding it, but I'm gonna have to replace that bolt. But that's no big deal. I probably have some if I look hard enough, or I can just run up to the store and buy them. They usually have them in the help section. So ain't that big a deal. Either way, Shorty's got a gas tank. We got our springs, we got everything stripped off the back of the frame. We got our overloads taken off our springs. We got our rear end out. Everything from the cab back is ready to be cleaned and painted, and that's what I'm gonna do next. But I ain't doing it on this video. You guys can't get that lucky. You're gonna have to wait and see it later. So give me a second. I have to go because I'm not smart enough to remember to do it. I've got to pause you guys again so I can go figure out who the winner of the t-shirt is. So while I'm doing that, why don't you go ahead and go and leave me a comment, so you might win a t-shirt off this video. And we'll see in just a second. Okay, so I did the thing about the thing, and the winner of the t-shirt this go around is Sam Fisher. Sam Fisher, you are the winner of the t-shirt. Congratulations, bud. Send me an email or Facebook or Instagram messenger message with your size, your address, and I will get a shirt out to you right away. So thanks everybody for participating, and since you're here anyways watching this video, why don't you leave a comment so you have an opportunity to win a shirt off of this video, because yeah, we're still doing that thing. So I'm soaking wet in sweat. I've done quite a bit of work today. And I think I'm about ready to call it a day. Go home, enjoy my family. Well, I don't know about that, but go home and do something there where they are anyways. But that's gonna do it. I appreciate everybody watching. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one.
Bye, everyone.
And we'll see you next time.